I think so. What class do you think is the most accessible, like to a new player
Depends on how well they
in
know,
fifth edition?
like tabletop games.
Not at all. Like no. Yeah, we're just talking
So
like
someone who doesn't know.
we want them to be competent. Well, okay, no, let me rephrase that because like fuck that. We need to frame this differently in our minds nowadays because folks coming into this, it's not like we're teenagers or in our young 20s. People know what the fucking RPG is now. People are very familiar with these tropes and things. So even if they don't know D&D, they know all the classes and what they are.
Hmm.
So someone that is more than willing to engage with the rules, is interested but is new to the game, what do you think is like what's most accessible out of all the classes?
Um, fighters and thieves, fighters and rogues.
So kind of maybe if you're thinking like mechanically, but that's sort of not true because rogues can be very complicated
They can be, but I'm
because all
thinking
their
like
skills and stuff.
I'm
But
thinking
like,
like
and to play them well, yeah, rogues take like a really high level of play. Um,
But
so
rogues, you don't have to. A rogue can always do the thing, you know? Like, whatever it is that they're going to do, they can pretty much always do it.
But but what things though? Like, there's lots of stuff they're not good at, and they aren't good in combat really.
Okay, so what are you getting at?
Well, I'm trying to like if so because I'm also like rogues are just in such a terrible place. Like, so we also want this player to be competent. They're familiar with these tropes. They need to be able to work in any situation. Rogues are kind of like they're very specialized in skills, but they're not great at combat. Fighters are kind of the other way, but they will get to feel competent in combat at times for some things, whereas the rogues can get very easily outsourced to the magic industry, where fighters will
Mhm,
still matter in combat. Wizards still need someone to like defend them.
mhm.
Whereas rogues can't do that. They're kind of the best at running away from things. But it was just interesting seeing it parsed out. People think paladin because, well, you're like, oh, but they're a half spellcaster. Their spell list is dead fucking simple. Like it's super obvious what a spell does. Bunch of them are just like variants on smite, and like they stack together so easily. You can have
They still
someone.
have like, so for paladins, they still have like smite resources. A spell is not always going to necessarily be clear on what it does, but if you're
Oh,
rolling
but no,
in,
but specifically, I mean the paladin spell list. Like their spell list is very tailored in a way that's easy to understand, more than a ranger's. Because a
right?
ranger
But we
has
got
like all this different
if,
stuff.
if we're taking classes, I still think it's a fighter or thief or rogue rather.
In terms of
Because
like, yeah, maybe in like some simplicity, but to also be functional in a party and like easily balanced. A
okay,
paladin's
well you
like
have your
it's like a safe choice. I was just like the logic of it because I've never thought of a paladin as being like the most accessible, but then like seeing the reasons, I was like, that's interesting. Because people love a paladin, and there is something true. They do feel kind of like they can work almost anywhere, and they can have good charisma. They can work in social situations and stuff. So I don't know. I thought that was interesting because
Mhm.
rogues and fighters can make new players feel really bad and bounce off the game. Because like they're easy to play, kind of, but they're not easy to play well. Like so much of the skill stuff, it's like a rogue has to specialize kind of an insane amount in certain skills, and then you can still just have level 2 pass without trace and give everyone just like your whole party a crazy stealth bonus. if you're a ranger or a wizard or a sorcerer. Like, it's interesting the problems that sort of arise with this stuff.
I'm going to Uber to go ahead and bring this stuff in.
Oh, yes. Here, I'll help you carry that stuff up here in a
I
second.
don't need to go.
Oh, duh. Good point. Dad just got home.
Oh, okay. He just got done shirt shopping.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, and you know, 5th edition fighter is more accessible, but like 3rd edition's a fucking nightmare, and Pathfinder is also like not easy. Because when they just give you a blank slate, like, here, make anything you want, that's actually like one of the most stressful classes to make. Whereas the Paladin just has like a kit, and they're like, here, it's just ready. You don't have to customize shit. It's kind of hard to make a bad Paladin. I guess that's like why it's like it's hard to make a bad Paladin. It's a bit easier to make a bad fighter or rogue. I think there might be some truth to that.
I mean, I guess rogues will still do it with the skills, and fighters will still make with the smacking.
Yeah, there's just so many people that are better at both. So, I mean, yeah, my experience with the Barbarian and Kim when she was the Ranger, and then the problems Ian's had with the Monk, like, this, literally some of the issues we've had with D&D have been, like, balancing issues. Because we're not capable enough when we should be. I don't know. These are just thought exercises, because I want someone, if they want to embrace a fantasy, then the game shouldn't hold them back from being able to be, like, awesome. Like, the thief should be able to be fucking dope and not be, like, something you have to work really hard at. Like, why does the Paladin have to be... Why can't it be as accessible? You know? That sort of sucks. I don't know. That's just... I wish those classes were. Like, it makes more sense for those to be the, like, starter accessible ones, maybe. But they kind of aren't.
I don't know if I agree with that. Like, I still think they are. If we're talking... Because we're talking, like, low level... Like, I'm thinking, like... If I'm throwing some people in a level 1 adventure and somebody's like, man, I really don't know what I'm doing, I would be like, okay, if you want to unga bunga, fighter. And if you want to sneak around, you're a thief. You know,
But
Paladin,
barbarians are really good at... Barbarians are better unga bunga and simpler to play?
No, because they've got rage resources to keep track of. That's
Oh,
why I
but
was like,
raging out's like... But that's not like a power strike or all the combat maneuvers a fighter could have. Like,
right.
going unga
But,
bunga is like...
when you were like, you know, you were talking about starter characters, so I was just thinking like straight up.
Well, it's like there's more to just... Because there is like like you're right in some simplicity, but like that character is going to have a bad time, like if everyone else just kind of runs over them. Because I've seen that happen so much when we play, you know, because people just don't know what the fuck they're doing, you know. Yeah, I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah, because I think there's like, there is truth to what you're saying, but I think the game like betrays it. You know, because like these functionality issues. Because like a ranger can do a lot of stealth stuff, and they get a nice little spell list. Like in a lot of ways, they can do what that thief does better.
Yeah, eventually.
No, at level 1 or 2, like they get access to spells real quick. Rangers, so like I'm really talking like within 3 levels of balance. Like I'm not talking high level at all.
I'm talking about the whole.
I'm
level
talking-
one.
I mean level 1's busted. Like just RNG will make level 1 busted. Like just a bad roll here or there. So that's always been wilder to think about and harder to balance anyway. Level 3 and 4 is where stuff actually like usually comes on for everybody. Yeah, because like it's hard to like front load every class feature a class might need at level 1 without being overwhelming. So some stuff gets kind of spread out. But yeah, like even at level 1, yeah, there's just weird ways that people can get outdone, and it can feel oddly discouraging. I mean, scenario design's important, but you can have your other players like undermine moments you might mean for the thief or the fighter because they just like do some big awesome thing. I mean, I've seen the wizard do that so many times over the years.
That can happen with anybody with D&D, particularly.
Oh, but like that, I mean, that's
but...
all this stuff you can throw out the window because ultimately it's left to the DM. Blah 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 blah. But you know, 5th edition stresses out DMs really badly, whereas Pathfinder actually, yeah, this was like a truth I found today. Weirdly, like 5th edition D&D kind of isn't more complicated than Pathfinder, because Pathfinder alleviates an immense amount of pressure off of the DM. There is so much fucking pressure in 5th edition on the DM, and D&D in general, like for them to deliver everything, and all these weird little imbalances, like, well, your scenario design will fix it. You'll compensate for it somehow. And honestly, there's 100 million little factors you're considering as a DM. Sometimes you don't need to fucking have to worry about rebalancing a whole goddamn class for one of your party members. That kind of sucks. It'd be nice if these kits just worked and you didn't have to worry about it. You know? So, whereas Pathfinder, everyone's just, since you get a lot more features, everyone's more balanced because there's more of an opportunity for customization and stuff like that. There's a lot more opportunity for players to get more familiar with all of the systems because all the systems are like more coherent overall and work together and gel a lot more nicely in Pathfinder. And so, yeah, like, so Pathfinder, because it puts a little more pressure on the players, it removes a whole lot of stress from the DM, which I think is an interesting contrast. So
yeah,
because I mean, yeah, like, look, I'm talking on my ass, like this stuff kind of doesn't matter at all, like as a scenario design, but it's interesting to me. You know, this is just when I read about these things, this is just some of the stuff I'm reading about, and 6th edition is happening, so all the conversations are like around balancing these classes while there's a chance. Because, you know, the new books are coming out in a few months. So everyone's like, we got to make these changes or for like the next 10 years, it's going to be set in stone.
Man, is that really how long we've been doing 5th edition?
Yes, 2014. That's when it started. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
It's been a while.
And honestly, about every 10 years or so is when the new edition comes out. That's pretty consistent, actually.
That works for me. Interesting food for thought. Oh, before I hop off, let me remind you, go ahead and level up Uko to level 8.
Oh, yeah.